Hey, 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 there's your girl Barbie J here, and we are back with another awesome episode of The Equalizer, Season 2, Episode 16, Vox Populi. And I was sitting there going, what does Vox Populi mean? I'm waiting to hear them mention it in the show, but they never mentioned it. And what I learned is that Vox Populi means the opinions or beliefs of the majority. So, of course, there was the jurors and they were deliberating. They were in the jury room. So, there you go. Everybody had an opinion, and majority was ruling at one point. But before we get started, just know that the Equalizer will be back in 2 weeks. So I don't know what's happening next week, but we're going to miss an episode. And see, every time it starts to pick up some steam, something like this happens. So I don't know what's going on. Hopefully we'll find out. I guess we will by next Sunday. But anyway, if you have not subscribed to my channel as of yet, please take a moment right now and hit that subscribe button. Then select all, and it'll let you know every time I upload any new videos or content. Then I ask that you smash that like button, write a comment, and share the video. So I'm getting close, y'all. So let's help me get close to this 1,000 subscribers. In the meantime, I took a lot of notes for this episode because it was really good. And it's so funny because it's about jury duty. And I actually have jury duty next week. Next week, what is that, May 3rd? I have jury duty. So this episode kind of got me ready for it. I tell you that much. So it starts off with this young man, Tim. He's accused of raping a white woman named Sarah, and he's a black man. Let me just make it clear because that comes up later, the race. And he's on trial, and the jury goes to deliberate, and everyone's thinking that he was guilty. They wanted to just in there, the jury room, 5 minutes, and they're like, who thinks he's guilty? And everybody raised their hand except for Aunt Vi. She was like, wait a minute, don't we need to discuss something and have some discussion? So the prosecution has to prove, she's like, the prosecution has to prove he's guilty without a reasonable doubt or something like that. And she had doubts, and they just wanted to get it over with and be done. So she said, if we're going to send someone away for the rest of their life, we can at least like start getting the facts straight. And because they were saying, oh, but you saw he had that cut on the arm. No, he didn't have a cut on the arm. He had a cut on the hand. Oh, but they said A, B, and C. It was like, it wasn't A, B, and C. It was D, E, and F. So they were mixing up stuff. And she was like, let's get the facts straight before we go any further. So these jurors had info all wrong, and she goes home complaining to Robin about the 11 other jurors. And after Robin, this all happened after Robin was asking Delilah about, how she feels going to her dad's house, and she knows how. And Delilah's like, I know how to handle, him. And Robin said, well, don't think you can try that mess over here, because Delilah was like lying, and she's like, I don't want you to be lying over here. So after Delilah walked away, Robin asked Vi about the case, and she said, I can't tell you. So Robin goes to Harry and Mel for help to make sure Tim's attorney has all the facts, because she found out a little bit from Aunt Vi, that what type of case it was, but she didn't tell any details. She didn't tell her any details. So when she goes to Harry and Mel with this information, Harry's able to get the dockets and find out what's going on and what court cases, so it's in everybody's computers over there. So Robin goes to visit Morgan Carter, who is Tim's fiance. Tim's the one that's on trial, and talk with her about Tim and she said she wanted to talk about her about that night. So Robin goes to speak with with Dante on the basketball court, and she asks him for help, but says if he doesn't want to be involved, she won't bother him anymore about it. So he said he took a break, and that's what he wanted to do, take a break. So he didn't help her. So he said he was going to take a rest from this stuff, and told Robin she don't need him to answer those questions that she needed answered. So she goes back to brainwash with Mel and Harry, and then they decide to speak with Sarah's friend, Olivia, who was hanging out with her that night that she was raped and killed. So we learned then that she's the one. She's the one who gave Sarah the Vexanex or something. It was a Vexanex, some kind of pill that was they were trying to say that Tim drugged the girl with. And they were blaming Tim for this all this time until one of the jurors realized, she admitted that it doesn't dissolve. And they was like, how do you know? And she was saying because she has taken them. So Vi was upset because she said, you're withholding info. And then another juror was saying, hey, if the prosecution was wrong about this, what else were they wrong about? But she was like, you didn't really lie, but withholding information would have been important because he would have had to crush up the pill and everything first and have it ready to put it in her drink, and it didn't make sense. So that's why this other guy joined with Vi at that point. So Olivia thought Tim was the guy. She kept saying that was him, but she had taken a Vexanex herself. So, and she was drinking. So she just said the police showed her a picture and she just went with it. She testified and said it was him because the police showed her that picture. And they said he was running out of the building as well, but he was only running to get into his cab. So the truth is, he was, like I said, getting his cab. The jury is still deliberating, and Vi mentions a scenario and then stated a point about cross-racial misidentification, and white guy got insulted by it. And she said, well, it's not personal. It's just the way our brains work. It's just the way they work. And another juror vouched for her, and she said she read it somewhere as well. And she knew the percentage amount of people who are in prison because of that. It's not good, blah, blah, blah. So it's starting to get a little heated in that jury room as they further deliberate, And Mel and Harry and Robin, they brainstorming again some more to realize there was a company gathering that night at the bar. And they found another black man named Devin or something, who was the one to gave Sarah the glass of water because he said she looked like she was wasted, so he gave her water. And Robert asked her why not come forward when you had an alibi, and he said please. And I totally agree with him and understand his feelings. He's like, you think the cops would give a damn about a black man if I had an alibi when a white woman was murdered? And unfortunately, people, that's what we go through. That's what the people of color go through. So you can't get insulted by this because too many innocent black men are in jail for stuff they didn't do. Anyway, because we always fit the criteria. We always look like the person. We always. So anyway, he said he has a family who needs him, and she's got to do it on her own. He not coming to help. So here we are again in the jury room, and this Spanish or white woman, I don't know who she is, she has a lot to say about everything. She makes a comment about Vi going home. First of all, she said she had too much time on her hands. She needs to just go on home to her husband. And Vi said, I don't have one. And she said, you just told us that you did. And that's when this other black woman in the room said, that was me, the other black woman. I said, oh, I was cracking up. She said, me, the other black woman. And Vi is like, did you just get us mixed up? We have been together for 2 weeks and you confused us? And she said, that goes straight to my point. Isn't it possible that Sarah's roommate saw her talking to a different black man that night? See how things get? I was glad that happened. Very, very interesting. So they started debating about race, white versus black, and the older white man tried to make Vi feel like she was trying to protect the kid because he was black. And she goes home beat down looking, and she talks to Robin, who in return tells Vi to stick with her gut about her initial concerns about the case. And Vi's like, Robin, and Robin said, I'm going to bed now, and wouldn't say anything else, which means she knew Robin was looking into it. So then in the middle of the episode, they show Dante having a nightmare about the night he was kidnapped and beaten and shot by the white law enforcement officers in that old hick town. And so he gets up and he opens up that folder that Robin gave him about Tim Colvin. And they just showed him reading it. Then it switched over to Robin. She's meeting with the DA, and she said to her, unless Robin could find evidence that Tim didn't kill Sarah, there's nothing she can do. And if found guilty, he can file for an appeal. And Robin said, that's a bunch of crap. She said, because it's hard to get you to get a convicted person on appeal, if they want to appeal. She said, well, that's all I can do. I'm sorry. So what happens? Then Robin decides to speak with one of the key witnesses, who was this guy named Christian. He was the downstairs neighbor from Sarah. And he said he's the one that saw Tim run to the cab. He said the police showed him a picture, and he said that was him. I was like, ain't this enough? The police show you a picture, and y'all didn't care what black man. They didn't show you two pictures. They show you one picture, and you say, yeah, that's him. So Dante goes to court, and he meets Tim's attorney outside the courthouse. And he asks her what she thinks about her client, and she believes he's innocent. So he asked her, how does she keep doing it, knowing that the system isn't fair? And she's like, if not me, then who? And I get that. So he asked her if she could get him in to see Tim. In the meantime, Robin spoke to Christian, and he saw a man running into a cab at night through a basement window. Also, she noticed the lobby lights are on, and a sensor or a time or something is very dark, and then it's light, and then it's dark. He said the landlord is cheap, so he put that in. So anyway, but back at the delivery room, Vi realizes something about a game being on at the time, and it pushed back the ending of the game, because they said something about they heard somebody screaming at the end of the game. So due to the game winning overtime, the end of the game was probably like a half an hour later, which means Tim wouldn't have been able to do all of that, kill the girl and clean up the mess and everything within those few minutes, and then run and jump in the cab. So when she played it all out for them, and she ended with, is it reasonable doubt that he did it? And you see the prosecution has to prove without a reasonable doubt that the defendants did it. So everyone decided to change their votes to not guilty after that. So that older white guy, he was holding out for a minute, but everybody supposedly, so the foreman said, look, he decided, let's take a break and then think about it and then come back and take another vote. So then we have Robin talking to Dante, and he said he has some, and she said she has some questions for Tim as well. So they both went to talk to him. And then they learned that he had lied about some things to his attorney, but swears he didn't kill Sarah. He mentioned falling over a trash can and running to the cab and cutting his hand. And Robin asks Harry to show her the building, how it looked on trash day that day. And it was piled up and blocking Christian's window. She's saying, so how did he see Tim out of his window? Because the trash was in the way. And the answer to that is because he was in Sarah's apartment. So Robin and Harry, because from Sarah's apartment, he could see everything. He would be able to see Tim running for the cab. So Robin had Harry do a background check on Christian real quick and learned that he had lived in a building before that had a woman get raped or killed or something, but the crime was never solved, which he now seems to be a suspect to them. It seems like he's a suspect to them now that they're learning all this stuff about him. And this is Christian. So back to the jury room, there's a deadlock with 11-1. This one Latina woman is saying he's guilty because I know guys like him, and Vi's like, okay, she's reminding her that Tim is not whatever person or guy who did you wrong or did something like that. She's like, I just know men like that, and he's guilty, and you're not going to get me to change my mind. I'm not changing my mind. You can't make me. And they're like, she's like, I'm not going to try to make you. You have to, vote your conscience. but just remember, who he is. And it's without a reasonable doubt. So the jury goes back in the courtroom, and the judge reminds them of their responsibilities as well, because they said they're deadlocked. And he was like, "Can we send you back in there?" And he's like, "No." And the judge is seeing this 11-1. He said, so he gives them a little speech and says that anybody who wants to say, say something right now, speak now. And he's telling them to speak now, and everybody's real quiet and nobody's saying nothing. And he was about to say, "Okay," in the Latin, when Latina woman jumped up and finally she said, "Okay, I have something to say." She said, "I want to change my vote." And then she finally changed her vote. At that point, they read off. He said, "Foreman, then what does this help?" And he's like, "Yes." He said, "So what is it?" And they said, "We find the defendant not guilty." And oh my gosh, it was so wonderful. And Vi saw that Robin was in the courtroom, and Dante was in the courtroom, and the DA was in the courtroom looking back like, "Why is Dante in here?" Everybody's looking around. So Robin thanked Dante for his help, and she said, for what it's worth, she thinks he'll make a great attorney. And he went over and said a couple of words to the Tim's attorney, and she was saying how they think that he got away with murder and stuff, and there's no justice for their daughter who got murdered, and they really think this black kid did it when he was innocent. So they showed Dante after that looking over at the DA, and she was talking with Sarah's crying parents who think, like I said, Tim is getting away with murder and stuff. And he walks over to them. In the meanwhile, Tim is hugging his fiance and his infant son that he probably didn't even get to see being born, because she was pregnant when he got arrested that night when the cops came busting in and arrested him and stuff. So that's basically the episode, and it ended with Robin at home, and she's apologizing to Delilah for putting her in a position to have to lie to her father. And she says that they can come back, lies can come back, what did she say? Lies can backfire on you. Lying is dangerous. So she said, well, Dad did ask if I felt safe here, and she said, and I didn't lie about that. And Robin went over there and they hugged and stuff. Yeah, you got a badass mama there. You can feel safe. So Robin tells Vi that, Aunt Vi comes in the door, and they talk briefly before Delilah runs out and jumps in a car with her dad. And Robin tells Vi that Tim owes his freedom to her. And she said the world needs more people like her, who will take the time to find the truth. And that was wonderful. That is the truth about that. So, and then the episode ended with Detective Dante confronting, and I said detective, y'all. He confronted Christian and showed his badge, his NYPD detective badge, saying he had some questions for him. He is back on the force. Yes! I was so happy to see it. So this was another good episode. It was pretty deep, but I said it prepared me for my jury duty next week. I have, and don't forget, it will be back in 2 weeks. Equalizer will be back in 2 weeks. And if you have not as of yet subscribed to my channel, please, please, please take a moment and subscribe now. I need your help right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You keep visiting, but you're not subscribing. I need your help. So help a sister out. This your girl, Barbie J, saying peace.